Welcome to the Chronicles of a Cheating Wife channel. A new story every day. Don't forget to subscribe. I can't get up off the floor. My legs just won't push me. My arms are trembling, and my breath comes in painful, shallow bursts. I'm staring at the cracked tiles, noticing every speck of dirt, every worn edge. There's a dull ache in my chest, a pressure that's pinning me down, and for a moment I'm convinced I'm dying. I wish I could say it's from a heart condition or some freak accident, but I know it's not. It's the weight of a single truth, the destruction of my family. And right here, on the cold floor of my own living room, I can't muster the strength to stand because all I see is the end of everything I believed was unbreakable. My body shakes, and a voice in the back of my mind whispers, "Get up. Damn it, get up." But I can't. My head feels too heavy, and the memories threaten to swallow me. I close my eyes, and her face blazes across my thoughts. Sarah, with those wide, chocolate-brown eyes that used to glow with delight when I brought her simple gifts home. A single rose, a coffee from that place she liked on the corner, or maybe a silly little stuffed bear for Valentine's Day. She always had a smile for me. I remember the sensation of her lips brushing against my cheek, the warmth of her breath, the feeling that her laughter was a balm to all my anxieties about life. Now that same mouth brought me the news, indirectly, that I'm not the father of the child I rocked to sleep at night. The baby boy, she'd said, was mine. My son. She never explicitly confessed it in words. She didn't have to. The test results did that. And then the box with that bracelet, the one with that tiny inscription. "Thank you for everything. Marcus." Marcus. A name I hardly gave a second thought until I recognized the handwriting on a card that came attached to the gift. The security guard from her office building. His grin was friendly enough the few times I saw him, but behind that grin, behind those white teeth, lay the dagger that cut into my back. I feel my palm clench into a fist, nails digging into my skin until a sting hits. Slowly, I push myself up on one elbow. The air is thick, but I force in a gulp. My eyes slide toward the window. The sky outside is gray. Typical for this city in early winter, it mirrors the color of the numbness inside me. Sarah is in the kitchen. I know she is. I hear her subtle movements, the clink of porcelain, the hush of water running. She's there, and I can sense her guilt, sense the tension stiffening her shoulders. She wants to come in, maybe ask if I'm all right, but she's too afraid to see the expression on my face, afraid of the silence I now wield like a weapon. Silence is the only real sword I have left. When I think of the first sign that something was off, 1,000 images flash through my mind. The moment the puzzle pieces fell into place was so disturbingly mundane. A Father's Day gift, carefully wrapped with a tidy bow, placed on the coffee table with a sweet note. She'd said, "Happy Father's Day," and I'd almost laughed, because for a second it felt too perfect. Then I opened it and saw the bracelet, saw that engraved phrase, "Thank you for everything, Marcus," and time seemed to slow. The expression on her face, the tension in her posture, gave her away before she could stutter some ridiculous explanation. I remember how my hand trembled with the box still in it, how her eyes darted to the side, unwilling or unable to meet mine. The prickling sensation that started at the back of my neck and spread all over me until my skin felt like ice. I couldn't breathe. I just stared at that piece of cheap metal, shining under the morning sun, like a mocking testament to my stupidity. It took me a few hours to process what I'd really seen, to connect it with every weird moment in the past year, the times she came home later than expected, the times her phone buzzed with messages she said were from some coworker, the suspiciously cordial tone she adopted whenever I asked who the father of that baby truly was. And ironically, that same evening, I found the blood test results that proved the boy, and I don't share the same blood group. She had tried to hide them in a cabinet under a stack of household receipts, but curiosity and gut feeling drove me to rummage around. I was suspicious, more so than I'd ever been in my life. My heart twisted as I read them. The letters on the page blurred from the tears that welled up. I told myself to keep calm, to confirm, to not lash out in ignorance. But deep down, I already knew. The next few days went by in a haze of tension. My gaze locked on her every move. I arranged a paternity test in secret, forging her signature on some lab paperwork, a shameful act of desperation. When the results came in, it was final. I'm not the father. The truth cracked my reality in half like a lightning bolt across a quiet sky. Now I'm on the floor, living in the aftermath of that truth, my knees shaking, my spine jolting with a wave of anger so intense it almost paralyzes me. Finally, I manage to crawl to the couch, pushing up to a seated position. She's in the doorway, silent, her eyes big and fearful. She doesn't speak, doesn't try to defend herself. She just stands there. I look at her, no words needed. My entire being is screaming at her, cursing her, but externally, I'm calm. It's a new kind of calm, like standing at the edge of a cliff, deciding whether to jump or back away. I guess this is where the fear started, where it lodged in my chest, swirling with betrayal and heartbreak. The fear that I've wasted years of my life. The fear that nothing will ever feel solid again. The fear that the man I was trusting, stable, respectable, has died. The man I'm about to become is a stranger, fueled by quiet rage, ready to do things he never would have considered before. I stand, eventually, and walk toward her. She doesn't move. I pause, just inches from her, and let out a shaky breath. "You can't say anything?" I ask, quietly. "Nothing. Just the trembling of her lower lip. Not a single word in your defense." My voice is rough, like something scraping inside my throat. Still no answer. I feel my fists tighten, and I concentrate on relaxing them, forcing each finger to loosen. "Okay," I say, after a moment that feels like an eternity. I move past her, heading to the bedroom, where I know a suitcase rests in the closet. My chest is on fire. Part of me wants to scream, to smash something, to show her the full force of the anguish clawing through my veins. But no. I remember how my father used to handle betrayals or disappointments. He always said, "Don't waste your breath on a liar. They feed on your reaction." He learned that the hard way, dealing with his shady business partners. I never thought I'd have to apply that lesson to my own wife. I open the suitcase on the bed. She follows me into the room, silent, like a ghost. Her eyes flick from the suitcase to me, and back again. I see the question in her gaze. Are you leaving me, or are you throwing me out? But she can't bring herself to voice it. She's always had a knack for controlling a situation with softness, with quiet manipulations. This time, my silence outdoes hers. I start packing. A couple of shirts, some underwear, socks. I realize I'm shaking so badly that I drop a sweater before I can fold it. I see her take a half step forward, as if she wants to help me. I shoot her a glare. She stops. I think back to the time we met, years ago. It was at a friend's wedding. She stood out in the crowd, wearing a simple summer dress that showed off the shape of her shoulders. I was a shy, newly minted financial analyst, naive about a lot of things, women included. She made me feel like I was the only man in the room. Her laughter was like a breeze in my life, cutting through the dull monotony of spreadsheets and numbers. We hit it off so easily, or so I thought. By the end of the night, we were exchanging phone numbers, and I couldn't stop smiling for days. Soon, those memories swirl, shift, become overshadowed by what I saw just a couple of months ago. That day I found them, or rather, walked in on them. I was supposed to be out of town for a work trip. The flight got canceled due to a storm, and I came home earlier than expected. The house was eerily quiet when I stepped inside. No TV, no music, just muffled sounds from the back bedroom. I remember a faint moan, one that stabbed me with instant alarm. My heart hammered so loud in my ears, I thought I might go deaf. Step by step, I moved down the hall, praying I was wrong, hoping I'd find some innocuous explanation. Then I saw. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and I caught a glimpse of her body curved against a man's silhouette. A half-groan, half-gasp left my throat before I clamped a hand over my mouth to stifle it. My wife, with her head thrown back, pinned against the bed frame by someone else's arms. His broad shoulders. I saw the ripple of his muscles under the dull lamp. I noticed his hair, shaved close to the scalp. It took me half a second to realize it was the security guard from her office building. Marcus Johnson. I'd seen him maybe 2 or 3 times at her workplace parties. He always had that grin, a pleasant handshake. Right then, he had his hands on her hips, and she was lost in the motion, eyes shut, lips parted. The scene seared itself into my brain, a brand that would never fade. I could have burst in. I could have screamed, demanded an explanation. Instead, something in me froze. A wave of cold, unstoppable horror swept over my body. I turned around, walked back down the hallway, and left the house. I stayed in my car for 2 hours, parked on the curb, trying to steady my breathing. Eventually, I drove to a cheap motel, drank half a bottle of whiskey, and stared at the nicotine-stained ceiling until dawn. I remember the heartbreak. I remember the sense of emasculation, the rage that threatened to bubble over. But I kept it inside. For reasons I still can't fully explain, I did nothing in that moment. Maybe I was a coward, or maybe I thought I could salvage something. I don't know. When I confronted her the next day, calmly, quietly, she denied it. She said I must have imagined it. She said I was stressed, overworked, seeing illusions. I watched her mouth move, weaving a tapestry of lies so thin it barely held. Still, I let her keep talking. I let her keep weaving. Part of me needed that denial. I clung to a childish hope that maybe I'd dreamt it, or maybe I'd misunderstood. That was before the pregnancy test came up positive, before we got that boy. Before I tried to do the math and realized the timeline was suspicious, but I ignored the logic. I told myself every miracle baby is its own story. How pathetic is that? Now, in the bedroom, my suitcase half packed, she stands behind me. Silent. I grab a handful of ties, toss them in. My mind returns to that day in the business center when I decided to confront not her, but the entire facade. I marched right into her department. Everyone knew who I was. Some had met me at the Christmas party. I remember how I forced a smile, greeted her colleagues, thanked them for being so supportive of Sarah. They looked at me with that mixture of pity and awkwardness that said, "We know, but we're not supposed to talk about it." My voice trembled a bit, but I kept a veneer of control, shook hands, patted shoulders. A grotesque mockery of friendly banter. She was behind the reception desk, her face whiter than a sheet of paper. I could almost taste her panic in the air. She was terrified I'd cause a scene. But I didn't. I simply told them all. "You all did a great job keeping this secret. Bravo." Then I turned to her, gave her a nod, and walked out. The silence in that lobby was heavier than lead. In that moment, I felt a grim satisfaction, as though I'd thrown a stone through a glass window, letting the shards fall where they may. It wasn't enough to erase my humiliation, but it was the only revenge I could summon that day. I left her with the knowledge that I knew everything, and that I wouldn't hide it. I look at her now, remembering that moment. She gazes at me with watery eyes, lips slightly parted, but no words come. My head throbs. I grab the suitcase and walk out of the bedroom, heading toward the front door. She follows, trailing behind me like a shadow. Once in the hallway, I place the suitcase on the floor and exhale, my breath ragged. My legs still feel unsteady, but it's better than a few minutes ago when I was crumpled. Finally, I turn to her. "You gonna say something?" I murmur. She swallows hard, but remains silent. I see her trembling. A wave of conflicting emotions washes over me. Pity, anger, longing, hatred, heartbreak. It's all a toxic, swirling brew in my gut. My voice turns sharper. "You ruined us. You get that." I wait for a reaction, for an apology, for something. She just stands there, tears slipping down her cheeks in glistening tracks. Nothing. Nothing to say. I wonder if she's in shock, or if she thinks silence will help her hold onto some scrap of dignity. I run my hand over my face, trying to banish the memory of her moans with him. I stare at the wall, remembering the times we sat here late at night, watching old comedies on TV, laughing and feeling safe. That sense of safety is gone, replaced by shards of betrayal that dig into me with every breath. I set the suitcase upright. I have no idea where I'll go. Maybe a hotel or a friend's place. I just need to get out. I need space to breathe. As I open the door, my eyes land on the little table near the entrance. There's a picture of us from a vacation in Seattle, near the bay, when everything felt right. She's in my arms, smiling, her nose brushing against mine. I pick up the frame, stare at it for a beat, then place it face down, leaving only the back to greet the empty hallway. She makes a small noise, a choked gasp. I close the door behind me. I don't look back. An hour later, I'm sitting in my car, parked outside a rundown hotel with a neon sign flickering overhead. My phone buzzes in the passenger seat. I glance at it. Her name on the screen. I ignore it. The buzzing stops, starts again. My mind is numb. I think about the child. I thought he was mine. For months, I rocked him to sleep, fed him, changed his diapers in the dead of night. I offered my chest as a place he could doze off to the lull of my heartbeat. My fatherly instincts were new, unsteady, but strong. Now I know he's not my flesh and blood. Yet I still feel that ache for him. It's not his fault his mother lied. It's not his fault she gave herself to another man. I step out of the car, the cold biting into my face. I grab my suitcase from the back seat and head inside the motel's dreary lobby. The clerk doesn't even bother to look up as I sign in for a room. The next few days blur. I go to work, do my job, come back to this soulless, cramped space with flickering light and a television that blasts static half the time. I barely eat, existing on stale sandwiches and watery coffee. Whenever I close my eyes, I see them together. Her moaning, his hands on her skin. My breath hitches in my throat, and anger starts clawing at me. I punch the pillow, wishing it could be his face. But the truth is, I'm just as furious with her as I am with him. More, even. A week passes before I see her again. She calls me repeatedly, sends messages, begs me to talk. I meet her in a coffee shop near my office, partly because curiosity gnaws at me, partly because I want to hear what feeble defense she might offer. I pick a table in the corner, out of earshot from the other customers. She arrives, hair pinned back, eyes rimmed red from crying or lack of sleep. She sits down, folds her hands in her lap. Her gaze flicks up at me like a prisoner awaiting judgment. I don't say anything for a long time. I let the silence thicken between us until I can see her swallowing convulsively, trying to find words. But she never speaks. She never utters a single phrase. This is what kills me most, her absolute refusal or inability to say it out loud. All the while, I'm racked with thoughts. You owe me an explanation. You owe me the truth. But when I finally open my mouth, all that comes out is, why? She opens her lips a fraction. Nothing. I lean forward, pressing my knuckles against the table, my voice low, taut with anger. You took everything we built, and you gave it to him. I pause. She shuts her eyes, tears threatening to spill. My heart pounds, but I keep my voice steady, each word a dagger. Do you love him? She gives a small, almost imperceptible shake of her head, but it feels half-hearted. There's no conviction behind it. I let out a bitter laugh. Then what was it? Boredom? A fling? Did you just want to feel desired by someone else? She remains silent, except for a tremor in her breath. I feel a wave of disgust mingle with sorrow. She can't even speak. My mind flashes back to those nights I stayed late at the office, trying to make partner, trying to build a solid future for us, She would complain that I spent too much time working. I remember feeling guilty, trying to offset my absences with small gifts or a fancy dinner. Now, everything is turned inside out. I clench my teeth, noticing the barista giving us a curious glance. I lower my voice. "Answer me, damn it." She looks away. My body tenses. For a moment, I wonder if I should grab her shoulders, make her look at me. But I don't. A trickle of shame seeps in, reminding me that she's not worth a prison sentence for assault. I push my chair back, the legs scraping harshly on the floor. This is pointless. I stand, ignoring her tearful expression. I turn my back and walk out, leaving her alone at the small table, her coffee untouched. At work, my colleagues sense something is off. They throw me concerned looks. My boss corners me in the break room one afternoon, asks if everything is all right at home. I force a tight smile, nod. Just some personal stuff. He suggests I take some time off, maybe go on a vacation. I tell him I'm fine. I'm not. But I need the distraction. Spreadsheets, investment reports, market analyses. These become my refuge. Numbers are simpler than love, betrayal, fatherhood illusions. They either add up or they don't. At night, in that claustrophobic motel room, I stare at the ceiling and relive the entire fiasco in my mind, like a film stuck on repeat. The test results, the Father's Day gift from her lover, the hush in the office lobby. My rage has a new dimension, an almost thrilling sense of vengeful clarity. Each day, I feel something inside me shift, a piece of my old self crumbling away. Where once was trust, empathy, and a desire for peace, there's now a cold resolve. An image intrudes, me, going to her job, humbling her in front of everyone, then heading to that lover, Marcus, confronting him physically. My fists connecting with his face, that satisfying crack of bone and cartilage. But it's just a daydream. I'm not about to get arrested, so the revenge has to be more subtle. I remember the quiet humiliation she felt when I outed her in front of her coworkers. That was just a start. My mind scores for more ways to make her feel the consequences, maybe not just in her personal life, but publicly, so that she can't hide behind silence anymore. Let everyone see her guilt. Let them see the truth. Let it burn away any illusions. I phone a lawyer. We arrange a meeting. I get the process started for a divorce. It's surprisingly easy. Once I show the paternity test, there's no question about who fathered that child. The child is not mine. The lawyer is a slender man with thinning hair, perched behind a messy desk. He asks if I'm sure, if I want full separation, or if there's any possibility of reconciliation. I give him a dead stare. I want to be legally free of her. He nods, scribbles some notes, then slides a stack of papers my way. Start with these. I sign. My hand trembles, but I do it anyway. He offers a sympathetic sigh, tries to lighten the atmosphere. Divorces happen, but you'll recover. I want to laugh. He's seen the scenario 100 times, but each man's heartbreak is unique. He can't fathom the hole in my chest. After I walk out of the office, I lean against the wall in the hallway, clenching my jaw as tears threaten to well up. My entire adult life has orbited around her. Now, I'm severing that orbit. I tell myself I'm doing the right thing. My father's voice resonates in my head again. Don't waste your breath on a liar. I'm not wasting my breath. I'm extracting myself from the wreckage. I text her once, telling her the lawyer's information, telling her she'll receive the paperwork soon. No response. Predictable. I take a grim satisfaction in imagining her reaction, the panic in her eyes. Good. Let her stew. 2 days later, I get an unexpected call from Marcus. The phone number is unknown, but as soon as I hear his voice, deep and hesitant, I know who it is. My stomach clenches. For a few seconds, I'm silent, letting him fill the space. David, he says. I wanted to talk, man. About Sarah. I grit my teeth, every muscle tensing. You shouldn't be calling me, I say quietly. We have nothing to talk about. He exhales, sounding uneasy. Look, I didn't mean for things to go like this. It just happened. She was lonely. And, stop, I bark, knuckles whitening around my phone. Don't you dare feed me that nonsense. You think you can sweet-talk your way out. You fathered a kid with my wife. My wife. He sighs. I know. I'm sorry. I didn't want her to leave me out of the boy's life. He is my son, you know. I'm trying to be there for him. My jaw is clenched so tight, I'm afraid it might crack. Rage seeps out in my voice. Then take him. Take them both. I don't give a damn. They're all yours. My heart thunders. I imagine him standing somewhere, foam in hand, sweat beading on his forehead. He tries to speak again, but I cut him off. You call me again, and I'll make sure your life becomes a living hell. You got that? I end the call, slamming my phone onto the table so hard it bounces. My breath is ragged. Adrenaline surges in my veins. It takes me minutes to calm down. Time crawls. My nights remain sleepless. I keep replaying that short call, the nerve of him, the tone that almost sounded apologetic. Part of me wants him to try and face me in person, so I can unleash everything I've bottled up. But he's probably too smart for that. Let him stay away, playing father to the child that should have been mine. I question if I'll ever fully recover from this. The weird part is, some nights I lie in bed, picturing the little boy's face, his soft eyes, and I can't help but feel a pang of regret. I wanted to be that child's dad. I was ready, but he isn't mine. I talk to my parents on the phone. They live across the country, far from this mess. I don't tell them everything, just that Sarah and I have separated. My mother's voice cracks with concern, asks if there's any way to reconcile. My father, in the background, is quieter, but he says, "Come home, son, if you need a place to clear your head." I'm tempted, but I have work obligations, and something keeps me in the city, a desire to see the process through, to finalize this chapter. Eventually, the day arrives when we have to show up in person for a preliminary hearing. She's there in the hallway outside the courtroom, looking pale and subdued. Her lawyer is a stout woman with sharp eyes. My lawyer stands beside me, rifling through papers. I spot the set of documents that highlight the results of the paternity test. My wife's, or soon-to-be ex-wife's, eyes dart around nervously. She looks at me, as if pleading for some kind of pity or mercy. Still, not a word escapes her lips. I feel that same cold fury coil in my gut. I wonder if she realizes how her silence only amplifies my rage. In front of the judge, it's mostly procedural. She doesn't contest the divorce, but tries to maintain some claim on our shared assets. My lawyer counters with the adultery evidence. I remain stoic, forcing myself not to look at her. The judge flips through the pages, occasionally asking a question. Her lawyer attempts a half-hearted defense, referencing the length of our marriage, her contributions to the household. Then the paternity test surfaces like a cannon blast. My wife lowers her gaze to the table, her face twisting in shame. The judge acknowledges that the child is not biologically mine, and since there's no formal adoption process in place, I have no legal responsibility. I feel a mixture of relief and heartbreak. I remember how I once fantasized about coaching that boy's little league team, teaching him how to fish, reading him bedtime stories. Now that future is gone. The hearing ends. The next steps are outlined. We shuffle out of the courtroom. I glance at Sarah. She lifts her gaze, finally, tears glistening on her lashes. For a moment, I see a flicker of the woman I fell in love with all those years ago. Part of me wants to ask her, was any of it real? Did you ever truly love me? But I swallow the words. I walk right past her. Weeks pass. The final divorce decree is nearing. I move out of the motel and into a small rental apartment closer to work. It's modest. Just a bedroom, living area, and a kitchenette. The walls are painted a drab beige, but it's quiet. It's mine. The emptiness is a balm. I can breathe here. No memories of her. No illusions of a perfect marriage. One evening, as I'm flicking through channels on a battered TV set, there's a knock at my door. I open it to find her standing there, trembling, eyes rimmed red. She looks exhausted, her hair unkempt. She says nothing, just stares at me with a silent plea. I clench my jaw. "What do you want?" I ask, my tone barely above a whisper. She parts her lips, but no sound comes out. I realize in that moment that she might be completely mute by choice or by shock. Maybe she's lost her voice from guilt or from repeated nights of sobbing. I don't know. I don't care. She steps closer, and I catch a faint whiff of her perfume. Familiar, painful. She tries to take my hand. I yank it away, feeling the jolt of anger. "Don't," I warn, stepping back. She moves her mouth, shapes a word that I can't hear. Tears spill from her eyes, shining under the fluorescent light of the hallway. My heart twists. I want to slam the door, to cut her off. But there's a part of me that yearns for closure, for an explanation. I force the door wider, motion for her to come inside, and she does. She stands in the living room, eyes sweeping across the sparse furniture. I cross my arms over my chest, bracing for whatever nonsense she might try to convey. She lifts a shaky hand, points at my sofa, as if asking to sit. I nod. She sinks down, breathing unsteadily. Minutes pass in silence. I lean against the wall. My thoughts tangle. "If you're here to beg for forgiveness," I mutter, "you picked the wrong time." She looks at me, her expression so full of sorrow that it almost stings. Then, slowly, she reaches into her purse, pulls out a small folded paper, and extends it to me. Her hand trembles so badly that the paper shakes. I walk over, take it, and unfold it. It's a letter, scrawled in her handwriting. It reads, "I'm sorry for everything." I can't speak. I've tried, but the words don't come out. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I had to tell you how much it hurts to lose you. What I did, I have no excuse. I felt lonely. I felt unappreciated, and Marcus was there. I let it happen. I betrayed you. I understand if you can never forgive me. I can't forgive myself. But I wanted you to know that I always loved you, in my way, maybe not the right way. My silence is not indifference, it's shame. I know I destroyed us. I know I hurt you in ways I can't ever repair. I'm sorry. My hands grip the edges of the paper, trembling. She sits there, tears streaming, awaiting a verdict. My chest tightens. I can't remember the last time I cried. But for a moment, I feel something hot behind my eyes. Then, a wave of anger surges up, drowning any pity I might have felt. I tear the letter in half, letting the pieces fall to the floor. Her eyes widen with a fresh wave of tears. She buries her face in her hands, shoulders shaking in silent sobs. "You say you felt lonely, unappreciated." I say, my voice low. "And so you let another man into our bed, let him give you a child, lied to me about it. That's how you handle loneliness." She looks up, mouth quivering, but can't speak. "You have no idea what it's like." I continue, "to be lied to for months, to have your entire identity as a husband and father ripped away in one go. You keep your silence. Let me tell you, it's the loudest damn noise I've ever heard." She tries to stand, perhaps wanting to approach me. I step back. My fists clench. "Don't even think about it." A cold wave washes over me. I see her eyes dart toward the door, as if she realizes she's made a mistake coming here. She picks up her purse, her posture sagging with defeat, and staggers toward the exit. I follow, my jaw tense. As she reaches the threshold, I grab the door and open it wide, waiting for her to leave. Her face contorts with regret. She mouths something that could be "I'm sorry" or "I love you." It doesn't matter. I just shake my head. She steps out into the hallway. I close the door, lock it, and lean my forehead against the wood. My heart pounds like I just ran a marathon. My stomach churns with a toxic brew of sorrow and fury. I slide down against the door, back to the cheap wood, breath coming in ragged bursts. I don't know how long I sit there, staring at the torn letter on the floor. My mind drifts to the child. He has no clue what's unfolding between us, just an innocent life caught in the crossfire. A child who'll grow up with a father who might not be fully prepared to be one, and a mother burdened by her own guilt. The thought makes me dizzy. But it's not my concern anymore. I tear my gaze away from the fragments of paper. This is my new world. A quiet apartment, no illusions, no comforting lies. The day before the final hearing, I decide to take a bold step. I show up at her workplace again. It's midday, the business center bustling with workers heading to lunch or returning with coffee cups. I stride in, ignoring the security guard near the front. An older man, not Marcus. My shoes echo across the polished floor. Heads turn as I pass. Some people recognize me, whispering to each other with worried expressions. She's there at the reception desk, eyes suddenly widening in alarm as she sees me approach. I come to a halt in front of her, ignoring the phone that starts ringing behind the counter. She stands, lips parted, but silent as ever. My voice is calm, measured, but it carries a lethal edge. It's done. I say, tomorrow, the divorce is final. You won't see me again. She watches me, tears brimming. I slam my hand on the counter, not enough to cause a scene, but enough to make her flinch. She stares at me like a terrified animal. I speak in a low tone so only she can hear. Remember this. I sought everything. You can pretend, you can hide behind silence, but I know who you really are, and I'm done letting you wreck my life. There's a hush around us, people looking. She's trembling, tears sliding down her cheeks, but still not saying a word. Behind her, a coworker appears, placing a hand on her shoulder, as if trying to see what's happening. I ignore them. I meet her gaze with ice-cold fury. Then I spin on my heel and walk away. I hear murmurs, hushed voices, confusion in the air. Let them talk. Let them wonder. It's the last time I set foot in this building. I feel no guilt about humiliating her in front of them again. They've all known for months, apparently, and watched me walk around like an oblivious fool. Outside, the winter wind slaps my face. I inhale the crisp air, feeling an odd sense of triumph. It's a hollow victory, but it's the best I've got. The final hearing is short. The judge signs off on the decree. Our marriage is legally dissolved. The property settlement is simple enough. We didn't have a house in both names, just an apartment lease that I already ended. I keep the car, she keeps some bank account funds. There's no custody battle because I'm not the father, not biologically or legally. By noon, it's over. She stands up, tears in her eyes, but I don't look at her. I focus on the judge, the papers, the moment of closure, my lawyer, and I leave. I feel her presence behind me for a few seconds, but I refuse to turn around. Outside the courthouse, I pause, a strange emptiness settling in my chest. The sky is pale gray, the sun hidden behind clouds. I inhale, exhale, trying to figure out what to do with myself. My phone vibrates, a message from my sister asking how it went. I type a brief reply. It's done. I'm free. Free is a word that tastes bittersweet on my tongue. Weeks melt into months. I remain in my small apartment, occasionally going out for drinks with an old friend from college. He tries to drag me to clubs or set me up on dates. I refuse. I'm not ready. Instead, I hit the gym more often, channeling my anger into the weights. I watch my reflection in the mirror as I push through reps, sweat streaming down my face. Sometimes I see a stranger there, someone harder, someone less forgiving. And a part of me thinks, good. Stay that way. I hear rumors from mutual acquaintances that she took time off work, that she's in therapy, that Marcus is trying to co-parent with her. The gossip riles me up. But I squashed the feelings. She's not my problem. Neither is he. They can build their own little world of half-truths, as far as I'm concerned. Then Father's Day rolls around again. 1 year since the day I opened that box with the mocking inscription from Marcus. I find myself alone in my living room, leaning against the wall, listening to the hum of my refrigerator. The memory stings, but I also feel a strange resilience creeping in. The heartbreak didn't kill me. It wounded me deeply, changed me, but I'm still breathing, still functioning, maybe even stronger in some twisted sense. My illusions are gone, but illusions are fragile illusions. They're not reality. Reality is harsh, cold, and often ugly. But it's honest. I stare at my phone. There's a text from my sister, wishing me a good day, reminding me that she and our parents love me. I force a small smile. I might not have a child, but I still have a family who cares. I think about my father's mantra again. Don't waste your breath on a liar. He was right. I saved my breath and found a new path. It's lonely, but it's mine. I step out onto the small balcony, resting my forearms on the metal railing. The city sprawls below, cars weaving in and out of streets, people living their lives, oblivious to my personal tragedy. The air is warm, the sky turning pinkish with the approaching sunset. I let the breeze wash over me. In the distance, I catch sight of a father holding his young boy's hand as they cross the street. I feel a pang in my chest. Regret, sadness, longing. But I remind myself that not every father is biologically tied. Some men adopt. Some men step up for kids that aren't theirs. Yet, in my case, it was forced on me through betrayal, and I can't pretend that bond is real. So I watch them pass, father and son, safe in their world, and I whisper to the wind. I saw it all. My own voice is quiet, but steady. I can't say I'm unaffected. I'm just no longer the same man who bowed his head and swallowed the pain. I'm changed, and in a strange way, I'm at peace with the transformation. A memory flickers. I'm lying on the floor, unable to stand, consumed by grief. That moment seems like a lifetime ago. Now, I straighten my back, push off the railing, and head back inside. Silence follows me, but it's not the oppressive kind. It's a hush that holds the promise of a future I'll shape on my own terms, free from the weight of her betrayal. I take one last look at the city lights through my window, let out a breath, and remind myself, the man I was, he died in that marriage, but the man I am now survived it. And there's a defiant strength in that knowledge.